Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. Comment down below, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really does mean a lot. This episode is probably going to be on the shorter side. I'm going to try to have it be around an hour regardless, but it might be closer to 45 minutes, to be honest, because I am only talking about the Pitt season 2, episode 12, and my last few episodes I've talked about multiple episodes for multiple shows, and because I'm only covering one episode of the Pitt, I don't know how long I'm going to be talking for, but I can ramble, and I am going to try to really dissect things because it's the only episode I'm talking about, so hope you enjoy. Apologies if it's a little short. This is a hobby, so just sharing my thoughts on what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. And to be honest, this week, the main thing that I really want to talk about is the Pit. I've been watching some other shows, but none that I really have anything that I want to say about. That's just my truth. I started Love Overboard. I don't really have much to say about that. I've been watching High Potential ever since it started. Love that show. I recently started RJ Decker. I love that there's a character named Emmy and she spells it the exact way that I spell my name. The character's full name is Emilia. It's not Eliana, but you know what? It's still a win for us Emmys who spell it EMI. But I don't have anything that I want to talk about in depth. So this episode is just going to be about the Pit. So I hope you enjoyed that. My social media is linked down below. I've been sharing lots of TikToks about the Pit, but I'll get into stuff here. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoy. So episode 11 ended with Emma being choked by that angry, agitated golfer whose friend was played by the guy who was on Glee and also switched up birth. The actor who attacked Emma was not on Glee, but his friend who came in earlier was on Glee. Anyways, there's a bunch of commotion. Everybody goes, and he has a bloody nose. Then Dana says he slipped. Robbie is suspicious the entire time about whether this guy slipped or not. He knows Dana, and he knows that something else happened. And I don't really care. The thing is, we didn't get to see exactly what happened either, and that's fine. I don't think we needed to. Same with, interestingly enough, now that I'm saying that out loud, there are a lot of moments on the Pit where we get the aftermath, but we don't see the actual thing. The altercation where Jesse stepped in to stop the ICE agents, we didn't really see that in depth. We just the commotion, the aftermath is really what we're shown. And I think that's an interesting choice for us as viewers to make our assessments without fully seeing it, because I feel like seeing something is different than inferring, because we can assume that she punched him in the face, but it's or maybe not punched him in the face directly, but obviously, but I wouldn't have particularly cared either way. I do understand that from Robbie's perspective, he needs to know what happened. I'm on Dana's side in this. And I also think Robbie's attitude and whole vibe this shift has been really, really, so I understand Dana's frustration with him, where she's like, why are you I'll get more into it. Sorry. We find out that Ogilvy's upstairs. He's not in this episode at all. He never comes back. Will he come back for any of the other episodes? I don't really know. Ogilvy's still upstairs with the English teacher. Whitaker makes a comment about med students not being useful and then says present company excluded because Joy's there. And then Joy takes a selfie with him and he's like, sure, he's a bit of a legend with the with the med students. They call him Phantom of the Pit because he lived there, which is so funny to me. I saw a lot of discourse about this of why are they laughing at the fact that Whitaker lived in the hospital? I think that's, or how did people know that he lived in the hospital? Maybe it's just because I went to a small school. I don't really know how med schools work, but I'm if somebody was living inside a building, I would know about that. because of I understand the very small nature of like a small campus. So I don't know if med school is similar where there aren't a ton of patients or a ton of students. I don't really know. But like this didn't feel that far-fetched to me. But I also went to a really small college, so I don't really know. And I love this. I thought this was funny. Robbie really does not believe Dana's version of events. He asks Dana and Emma what happened, and Emma's like, it all happened so quickly, I didn't really see what happened. Dana's version is that she was going to dispose of a medication and happened to see, and on her way to dispose of the medication, she saw this guy choking Emma, so she happened to have this medication that sedated him, basically, is her version of events. And Robbie thinks it's odd that she happened to have this medication, doesn't really believe her. He's like, how did he get the bloody nose? Did he fall before or after you gave him the medication? Now Robbie's concerned that like this guy now needs to get like a CT scan or an MRI, I think a CT scan, to make sure he doesn't have like some kind of brain injury from the fall. And Dana's really, really upset about this. She doesn't want anyone else to treat him. She's like, I'll treat him. And Robbie's like, no, you're off the case. And Dana's like, I'm not letting any of my nurses treat this guy. Like she's very upset. Dana's emotion this episode like was so compelling for me as a viewer. I really, really love Dana. I really, really love Dana. And this episode, like this season, this shift has really grown my like appreciation and love for Dana as a character. I really, really love what they're doing with Dana's storyline this season. From the sexual assault earlier in the season to this, it's been so wonderful to watch. The mom who came in with her son who was like overheated and is now on a 302 danger to self, she's like still being observed because they're worried that she's going to hurt herself, given the fact that Al Hashimi saw her walking into traffic. She asks if she killed her son. They're like, no, he's in pediatric ICU. Like he's not dead. He's recovering. We find out also that her husband went straight up to see their son and has not been down to see her. There could be something there. There could not be. Robbie and Al Hashimi have a conversation that I loved. And Al Hashimi has really grown on me. My first recap of this season, I really had a different perspective towards Al Hashimi because I felt like it's like very interesting to me because at the beginning I was like, I feel like she's not respecting the way things are done around here, and she's like not adjusting well to the environment. And like really she's adjusted very well. And in my opinion, the new the perspective, like I feel like I was viewing things at the beginning of the season too much through Robbie's lens, where I was like, this woman's coming in and trying to make a bunch of changes, and I don't like that. But now with some time passing, I feel like she has gotten a really good, like the perspective she has as somebody who's coming in as an outsider, I think is genuinely like really, really helpful. And I also think that she's done a good job adjusting to the things that I think are good about the pit that frustrated me, that she wasn't really like at the beginning. I feel like she didn't really know to ask the students. Like she would be like, do this, instead of being like, what should we do now? And that's completely changed. Like the things that bothered me about the way, like the things that I liked better about Robbie's teaching style that I felt like Al Hashimi wasn't doing, I feel like she's adjusted to that environment, and the new perspective and the fresh ideas she has, I think are like good. Like she's won me over. I really like her. I still don't like the AI thing. I'm a very anti-AI person myself, but nonetheless, really, really appreciated this conversation. Al Hashimi's like, I'm going to recommend there be 2 attendings. This is too much for you to handle. I'm really concerned about some stuff I've seen, what's going on with Santos and Langdon. And Robbie reveals to Al Hashimi that Langdon and Santos have beef, direct quote, because Santos was the one who revealed or exposed or whatever he says Langdon's benzo addiction. And Al Hashimi rightfully is like, he was stealing meds from this ED. Robbie deflects. He's like, this ED, she says he was stealing meds from this ED. And then Robbie's like, this ED is one of the best and it's yours to fuck it up. So don't. Like, he doesn't even address that. He's just kind of like, why are you, like, it was so unbelievable. And I really, really loved the way that Al Hashimi reacted to this, because I feel like it's really appropriate. And I also feel like it really showcases, and the subtle way that she began to approach Langdon differently really emphasizes to me the fact that Santos was right. Santos was right last episode when she's like, nobody here knows what you did. And she's right in that, because as soon as Alashimi finds out this very key detail to how things happened, her feeling towards Langdon changes. Not even, and she's not even like outwardly hostile to him. She just like, and I think that's an important factor. And I'm not saying that he needs to tell everybody. I do think Al Hashimi should have been privy to that information, given the fact that, like, you know, but I also think the fact that Al Hashimi changes her view on Langdon with this information is so important. And it so emphasizes the fact that when people are arguing and being like, Santos, like, there is a rhetoric and there's a discourse that's very anti-Santos, pro-Langdon, where people are like, nobody else cares. Santos won't let this go. And it's like, or like people being like, why should other people know this information about Langdon? Santos just wants him to be humiliated. It's not about humiliation. It's about, if you don't have all the information, then the way you're, like, I understand why Santos then has a chip on her shoulder or frustration, because she's like, everybody's, you got it off so easy. I don't know. It just, like, this moment and Al Hashimi's reaction and the way her behavior towards Langdon then changed, to me, really showcases the fact that Santos was not crazy or like wrong for being like, nobody here even knows what you did. And like, that's not fair. Like, that's not a true facing of consequences to your actions. And I think, and maybe I'm wrong because I've never been in a 12-step program. I've been in therapy, like in a lot of different kinds of therapies. One of which I was in an intensive outpatient program, which I happened to be in that program with a lot of addicts. But I'm not trying to speak like I know about addiction, but I feel like what I know of making amends and like taking accountability, I feel like part of that is being honest about what you did wrong. And I feel like withholding this very key piece of information, I feel like you're not able to properly apologize for what you did wrong if you're omitting a huge piece of the puzzle, which isn't just I was an addict. It's I was an addict and that had real consequences for the place I work. You know what I mean? Like, am I crazy? I feel like you can't really, to me, Langdon's apologies fall flat when there's not like a real acknowledgement of what he did. He even tells Mel, it never impacted my work. That is simply not true. That is simply not true that it never impacted your work. It literally did impact your work, because that's how it was revealed. It's not like you just decided you wanted to get sober and you started working a program. It literally impacted your work, and it was exposed at work because you were stealing meds from work. So I feel like withholding part of the truth of what you did wrong, I feel like you're not able to fully make amends and fully be accountable and grow. So like, I really feel like this was such an important moment, because it really validates that Santos is right, that people not having the whole picture is influencing the way they're treating Langdon. And how unfair is that for Santos to be in this position where she has this information that influences the way she treats him, but then maybe from an outsider perspective, it seems like Santos just has a weird axe to grind, when it's like, you guys actually just don't know the full picture. Like, I would be very frustrated if I was Santos as well. And I also just don't think he did a good job apologizing to her or trying to make amends with her. Let me move on. Javadi is in the ambulance bay and she has posted the video, but like the service isn't super good. So I will something come to fruition later with that video. perhaps the video she filmed when ICE was detaining Jesse. So will something come of that? I do not know, but I mentioned it just in case. While she's in the ambulance bay, she has a very harsh conversation with, and not because of anything she said, because of this clerk who's like low-key an asshole to her, which I want to say I felt a solidarity to this clerk a couple episodes ago when she said she was laid off by the tech revolution because I design newspapers for a living, and like that was relatable to me. But now I want to say I do not relate to this woman at all. And while my job may one day become obsolete with the tech revolution, I will not have a bad attitude about it. Or even like, maybe it's because I am younger, so I'm more in the Javadi camp. And do I think that maybe, like, I feel kind of like an old when it comes to certain technologies, specifically AI. But that's honestly, for me, it's not because I'm against technology. It's because I think it's not really innovating anything except making people lazier. It's killing creativity. It's like hurting artists. It hurts the environment. Like for me, I'm not against technology. I just don't think AI is doing anything that I don't think AI is making anything better. I think it's making people less creative, less thoughtful and introspective and extra. It's making people less inquisitive. It's making people lazier. It's making people worse communicators. Like, I just don't think AI, like, I'm not against technology. I just think that AI as a form of technology is causing regressions and not progressions. So that's why I'm against AI. It's not because I have like a beef with technology or improvements or things progressing. I'm very pro things getting better. I just think AI is stunting people in a lot of ways. But anyways, I don't need to go on a whole why I hate AI tangent. I could do that for hours. But my point is that for me, this clerk's attitude towards things changing and improving and the younger generation, I don't relate to that. So as much as I tried to have camaraderie with her and understanding from a fellow analog obsolete job haver, I don't relate to her because I don't have this kind of hate in my heart and judgment towards the younger generations. And obviously I'm not old, or not that she's old, but like somebody later in the episode, there's an old couple, and the husband in that old couple said something about how like every old person knows what it feels like to be young, but like no young person knows what it's like to be old. So like in that regard, I'm not trying to say that I know that I would 100% not have this jaded perspective when I'm at her age. I don't believe in condescending to people. I don't believe in talking down to people. And I think I also faced a lot when I was younger of constantly being told when I was a teenager that I would change my mind one day. The things I felt very passionately about, I was told, you will change your mind one day. And it's been a decade for a lot of those moments. And the majority of the things I felt very passionate about at that age, I have not changed my mind about. If anything, they've just grown deeper and like more nuanced. But I haven't really changed my opinions. And the things that I have changed my opinions about, the way I viewed it at that time is not any less valid because my opinions have changed or deepened or grown, because my opinion at that time was based off of my lived experience and what I had seen and what I had lived, and my perspectives have changed as I've grown and I've experienced more things. So I genuinely feel very passionately about not condescending to younger people and not telling people that their opinions are not valid or important or their perspective isn't valuable because of the phase they're in. I think it's beautiful to be open to growth and change, but I think your opinion, it's really, really frustrating when you're a young person to be told you'll change your mind one day, you'll change your mind one day, because it's like, I may and I may not, but that doesn't mean that the way I feel right now isn't a valid feeling that I have right now. And at the end of the day, life is short. There's no guarantee that I would have lived. I mean, I did, but like, it's so, I feel like rude to tell a young person you will change your mind one day, because it's like what I'm living right now is the feeling I have right now. Why am I going to live my life thinking that one day my perspective will change. When it changes, then I'll change it. Right now, this is my perspective. I don't know. So I feel like I because of the way I was talked down to as a teenager, I feel like I very much wouldn't have this attitude in my adulthood. But all that to say, this clerk really pissed me off. And I needed to clarify that I do not align with her just because I related to her a couple episodes ago. Okay. Anyways, she like talks down to Javadi, is like, oh, how old are you? She says she's 21, and then she's like, oh, millennials, and then she's like, I'm Gen Z, and she's like, that's worse actually, calls her an idiot savant. And Javadi's like, we don't use that term anymore. And then she calls her a snowflake, and it's like bad vibes. And it's like, I already went on an unnecessary tangent about this. I don't like this clerk lady. Justice for Javadi, my Gen Z queen. Whitaker then comes out in the ambulance bay, and he's calling Amy to let her know that he's going to be late. And then a son drives up with his dad, who and Javadi and Whitaker take him in. He missed his dialysis, and so he's crashing because of that. Normally, his dialysis schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but yesterday they missed it because they were at a wedding, and normally they're open on Saturdays, the dialysis place, but they're closed for the holiday. So, and one of the hospital closest to them closed down, and they didn't know that. So it delayed things a lot more. And so he's in a very intense condition. Dana and Robbie continue. They have multiple brief conversations throughout the episode about the event, with Robbie very much trying to be like, so you just happen to have this medication, and Dana's like it's multiple mini conversations, and then they have ultimately a bigger one, which I will get to. But Dana says to Robbie, she says, anyone else uses force to stop an assault, they're a hero, but a nurse does it and we're punished. And I just I really felt that. And it was sad. And it's really interesting, and I forgot about this, but there was a moment earlier on in the season where Langdon asks Emma how her first day is going, and she says that she's scared of Dana. And it's just so beautiful seeing the way that their relationship has progressed and how Emma's experience in the pit has progressed. But obviously a lot of bad things have happened, but I just really love Emma's character. I really hope she stays around. Al Hashimi begins to kind of treat Langdon differently. It really wasn't that intense. There are a lot of people who are very the Langdon stands are like, we've lost Al Hashimi on Team Langdon. First of all, she barely did anything. There were moments where she asked Javadi a question and Langdon began to answer it, and she goes, I was asking Javadi. Oh, grow up. She's barely treating him any differently. She's just not, her attitude towards him has obviously changed, because this, as much as people who are very Team Langdon don't want to admit, this is a very big deal. What he did was a very big deal. Okay. Langdon stealing medication from patients was a very big deal. I don't care if anybody disagrees with that. I don't think he should have gone to prison. I don't believe in prison, especially when it comes to things like addiction. Do I think that he should be working at the ER? I don't know. I'm not in charge of the ER. There's a reason I don't work in a hospital. I don't know. I do think getting treatment would have been better. Do I think maybe a better outcome would have been not to be working in the same environment? I don't know. But at the end of the day, what he did was a big deal. It just was. So the fact that people are so mad, not everybody, but there's a group of Langdon fans who really piss me off. Sorry, they piss me off, who are so mad at Al Hashimi, and they're like, we've lost. First of all, what is this with teams bullshit? Okay, this isn't a soccer game. What is this teams thing? Okay, there is no Team Langdon. He's not like a sports team that you're rooting on. He's a character on a TV show that characters are allowed to have complicated relationships with. And don't you think that maybe you should evaluate that if like somebody who was so willing to show up for Langdon and advocate for Langdon and include him when Robbie was like very hesitant, don't you think that the fact that her opinion changed because she has this information should maybe then tell you that this is a big deal and like it's not just Santos's weird vendetta against him, that people love to like insist that she just happens to have this vendetta and this hatred for Langdon, that she's still mad that he called her out and she won't let it go and all of these things. It's like maybe the fact that Al Hashimi, somebody who was an outsider, who was super open, was super chill with him being in the physician's health program and was like super understanding of him being an addict and being in recovery. Don't you think that the fact that this information changed her view of Langdon should show you as a viewer that this is a big deal? Instead of you just being like, oh, why does she care? Maybe you should be like, oh, maybe I'm minimizing the act that Langdon did. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really don't care if people are like, that was a bad thing, but I really like Langdon as a character and I want him in the show and I want him to grow. And I can't stand the people who have to be like, who cares that he stole meds? That pisses me off. That pisses me off. It's like, you can like a character who is flawed and admit that they're flawed. You don't need to act like who cares if they did anything wrong ever in their life. That's weird to me. And not only be like but then have like a disdain and an anger towards other characters for judging them for doing that thing, instead of being like, that thing was bad, so it's fine people don't like them because of it. I don't know, just me. Just me. Moving on. Dana and Robbie, in one of their many conversations throughout the episode, she says that he's tempting death. And he's like, oh, because of the motorcycle. And she's like, because of the whole thing. Because of the whole thing. This old couple comes in. It's like an old woman who is like injured. And her husband like hit her with his car. But like he says that she walked into it. Anyways, that's not really, she's fine. Like she has a minor injury. I think they do a scan. I don't really know. The main point of this storyline, from my perspective, the thing that I took away from it was Mohan being amazing. Samira and Mel treat this couple and they like pick up on, like Mohan is like, can I see your feet? And they do a test for balance. Then they notice that the husband is struggling with balance. Their daughter comes in and Mohan has a conversation with her about like, alternative living situations, and the daughter's like, I've been trying, they really do not want to live anywhere but home. Like they don't want to face the fact that they're getting older. And Mohan is just so good with this patient. She asks for like a list of their medications and she figures out which ones interfere and could maybe be causing things. And it's just like, I love Mohan. Samir is like definitely my favorite character, and the way that she shows up for her patients. This was so good. It was so good. It really warmed my heart. And a little bit more on that later. But I really loved, like Mohan is just so thorough. And like if I know that they're fictional characters, okay, but if I was to have a doctor in an emergency situation, I would want a doctor like Samira. I would want a doctor like Samira. I really would. I think that is a big factor for me. Honestly, when I'm watching this show, I always put myself in the position of the patient because I've never been a doctor, but I have been a patient. I've been a patient in emergency situations. I've been in the ICU. I've been in, obviously I've seen a primary care physician. Like I have experiences with doctors. And I think the experiences that I was in an emergency room specifically were very distressing emotionally. And I remember the doctors who were very kind, who were very helpful, who treated me like a human, who made the experience like better. I have to say, honestly, like no hate to them. The ICU nurses, the ICU doctors were nicer to me than the emergency room doctors. I don't need to get in. I don't need to get into my medical history, but like the ones that like it makes a difference for me. So I really put myself in that view, and the way that Samira just tries to find, and I understand maybe that means that she's, I don't know, I'm not a doctor and whatever, but I really like the way she approaches patients. I love her. I love her. Duke is like waiting for his CT and waiting for his CT and waiting for his CT. And he's trying to get out of there, and Robbie's not letting him. Robbie's like, no, you need to stay. And he's like, why don't I come back when you're back? Robbie's like, I don't know when I'm going to be back. Please stay. Duke wants to leave. Robbie is not letting him because Robbie allegedly, not allegedly, it's not an allegation. These are fictional characters. Robbie, in my opinion, very clearly is thinking that he's going to die. So he's like, I need to make sure Duke is taken care of before I die. So that's why he needs Duke to get this treatment now, because he can't ride his motorcycle with this hanging over his head that Duke will get the treatment when he comes back, because in Robbie's mind, he's not coming back. Emma doesn't want to quit. She gets a checkup by McKay. I love Emma. I really hope she's in season 3. I love Emma. There's a very brief moment, but I really love this, where Santos goes to Central 7 and the chart doesn't match the patient in there. He's like, is something wrong? And she's like, unless you're a 9-month-old baby with a diaper rash, then like, yeah, because you're not supposed to be in here. And then she like, he's like, can I get something for my pain? And she's like, they'll be with you. And then he's like, this place sucks. And here, I like Santos. Do I think, again, me putting myself in the position of a patient, if I had a doctor like Santos, would that kind of irritate me? Probably. Like, I really, the thing for me, and I don't know how many times I've said this on the podcast, but a lot of the things that I think about when I'm watching a show is like a character's motivation. That's a big thing for me. Because while in real life, intent, like impact versus intent, is a huge thing, and you can't really know somebody's motivations as much, and therefore the impact on their behavior is what, in my opinion, is the most effective way to, like, whatever. I feel like you do have some insight a lot of the times on a character's intent and their internal struggle, and I feel like because of that, for me, a character's like motivations do really matter in the way that I'm assessing their character and their behavior. And that's why, for me, I think that what Lang did last season was worse, because the motivation behind that was that he didn't want to get caught doing something harmful. Santos is like exterior, it's coming from a place of pain and like exhaustion. And that doesn't mean that I think can't improve and has done things that I don't like, but I just have an empathy for Santos, because I really feel like most of the things, even the things that a lot of people like call her a bully over, or like the nicknames or like this, I'm like, the motivation for that, in my opinion, has been established fairly clearly, that she's trying to connect with her peers. She's trying to befriend them. I feel like a lot of people just misunderstand, or they don't try to look a little bit deeper in Santos's character, and they just see the behavior without trying to understand the character's motivation. And for me, I think even in a moment like this, it's like she's I don't know. It's a little harsh, but it also, like, it's not the end of the world. I don't know. A patient comes in, his name is Dante. He has blunt force trauma, or blunt trauma from a fireworks explosion in a storage unit. He like fell back. No burns from the fireworks. He just fell and has some issues. There's a brief conversation that McKay and Al Hashimi have about motherhood, when they're talking about the mother who left her son in the car, or we don't know the details about that yet, but like, or maybe ever, but like, it's a very interesting moment where McKay's like, do you think that was an accident? And Al Hashimi's like, does it really matter? McKay's like, as a doctor, not really, but as a mom, kind of, yeah. And Al Hashimi says that sometimes she wonders if motherhood has made her more understanding or more judgmental. Really, really like that. And I think this is just very true of a lot of like lived experience, where it's like sometimes trauma or an experience like being a mother sometimes it can make you more compassionate to other people walking through the same journey. I don't know why I said it like that. Sometimes it can make you more compassionate and understanding to people experiencing the same things, or sometimes it can make you judge them or resent them for experiencing it in a different way than you did. Like, I think this is just a very true human thing in a lot of avenues. I imagine I'm not a mother to human children, so I can't speak to that exactly, but I think certain experiences that I've been through, it's like, or even just seeing it in other people, like some people, their pain, I've said this many times, but I don't think that suffering makes cruel people kinder. I think it can, but I don't think that like suffering and punishment necessarily makes somebody a kinder person. So in that regard, I just don't think like going through something, living through something necessarily means that you come out of it more compassionate to people going through that same thing or going through similar things or different things. Sometimes it makes you more judgmental, it makes you more jaded, it makes you, like that's a very human reality that I really appreciated the little moment. McKay goes to treat a patient with a massive sunburn, like her whole body is red. But she's interrupted because one of the environmental staff, I believe, like the custodial staff, but I don't remember what it's called. Anyways, somebody, they give her a blanket that Roxy left behind, and she's kind of interrupted. And then this leads to a conversation that McKay and Langdon have about emotions, repressing stuff, crying. This was also a very interesting moment. The Langdon and McKay dynamic is very interesting as the two people in the ED who have dealt with recovery, or who are in recovery. And McKay is basically like, she's very closed off in her emotions, where she's like, I don't even know if I could cry. It's a very, very interesting moment. I really like the McKay and Langdon dynamic. But again, that's one of those things where, like, referencing what I was talking about earlier, where it's like, I do just think that McKay's perspective of Langdon would change if she had the full picture. So it's hard for me to be like I really can't judge Santos for being like, people don't know the full picture and being upset that people don't know the full picture, because I do just think that would change the way that some people view Langdon. And that's probably why he doesn't want to confess that. That's probably why. And I think that shows a level of not really being able to fully face what you did and take accountability and grow from it. You know what I mean? I feel like unless you're able to really be like, this is what I did, and then have people make up their minds about you based off of the full picture, then there's just like there's just like a piece that's missing, in my opinion, where it's like, I don't feel it grow if you can't fully acknowledge what you did. So I don't even know. Moving on. Robbie and Santos have a brief conversation where he asks things have been going, mentions the conversation with Langdon, and she goes, yeah, that was fine. And he's like, you guys are gonna have to learn to work together while I'm gone. And then Santos says, or until he relapses. And I saw a lot of discourse about the until he relapses. And again, going back to what I was saying literally like 2 seconds ago, I cannot judge Santos for being like, or if he relapses again, because in my opinion, Langdon is not fully facing what he did. And if he's not fully facing what he did, how can he build a foundation of honesty and growth and like move forward? I don't think, based off of their conversation, that Santos is like evil for being like, Langdon may relapse, because I don't feel like if I had that conversation with somebody, I would be like, okay, they understand what they did. They want to, like, we're starting from a, like, there is a level to Langdon that comes across like he's in denial and he thinks he's the victim of the situation where he caused harm. He's like, you don't know what I've been through. My wife threatened to leave me. I almost lost my kids. He's viewing things as if they happened to him. And so I really just feel like when you're living in this denial and you're not fully taking accountability or facing everything you've done wrong, then how is somebody on the receiving end of that wrong for thinking that you are maybe not in a solid place with your recovery and your healing? I don't think Santos was wrong for being like, or until he relapses, because I don't think Langdon's presenting a version of himself that is fully facing everything he did wrong. That I think, and I'm not saying I don't know, like maybe you don't need to face everything before. Like I'm not saying that this means he's going to relapse, but I just don't think it's wrong for being like, I don't know if Langdon's fully in his recovery. I wish him, I'm saying this, I do not wish him a relapse. I do not wish for him to relapse. I do also know that sometimes the relapsing doesn't need to be the end of the world. If he relapses, healing isn't linear. I'm not trying to wish any ill will on Langdon. I know he's a fictional character, but I don't wish anybody ill will. And I do not wish for addicts to relapse. I wish everybody healing up, fictional character or not. Okay. But for me, it's like, if I was Santos, I would also have this feeling of like, I don't know if he's really. It's a little mean. It's a little mean, and I also think there's a layer of like Santos is struggling with her own issues, and while it's a different thing, there is like, if you have experienced self harm, there is a similar verbiage of like relapsing, being clean. It's obviously a different experience, but self-harming is in many ways an addiction of sorts that you are clean from, that you like. There's a very similar relationship that a lot of people have to self-harming, and so the whole relapsing thing, I think, is also on some level her being triggered by the whole situation and probably being like, she wants to relapse. The thing is, it's hard for me to know because, I'm like, relapse, is she still actively self-harming? We don't have a thorough understanding of Santos's relationship to self-harm because she has scars, but we only saw them briefly, and they some of them may have been more recent than others. I don't really know. And later in the episode, anyways, I'll get to that. But like, I really just, I don't, it was a little bit of a rude comment, but I feel like if you look a little bit deeper, you wouldn't be like, Santos is evil for saying that. But maybe that's just me. Moving on. Before I move on, in this conversation, she also finds out that Whitaker is house sitting for Robbie. Whitaker hadn't been able to tell her that. So Langdon and Dana have a brief conversation where he's like, you did what you had to do, and she's like, from your lips, God's ears, basically. Not much there, but I thought I'd mention it. Joy and Santos are fixing the laceration. The guy who came in from the blunt trauma, he like needs staples for his scalp, and Joy messes up a staple and says, "Oops." And the patient is like, "Oops, what's wrong?" And they're like, "Don't." And Santos is like, "No worries." And she pulls Joy to the side and is like, "We never say oops in front of a patient." See how you can correct somebody without berating them and telling them they know nothing? See how Langdon's behavior last season wasn't just him calling out Santos on her mistakes. I mean, I also just hate that narrative because it's really disingenuous, because it's like, if you watch back the season, his attitude towards Santos changes when she begins to pick up on the fact that there's a discrepancy in benzos in multiple situations she's had with Langdon, like multiple patients. So don't, like, this idea that all he did was call her out on her behavior. That's not what happened. He literally like noticed the fact that she was catching on to him, and his approach to her changed. It wasn't even that. But even if that's what he did and she needed to be put in her place or whatever, you see how Santos corrected Joy in a very easy, calm, kind way. You see how earlier in the seasons people were firm with Ogilvy. There's no justification to be berated by your superior, but like, what frustrates me is that even even if it was just that wouldn't be okay. But it frustrates me that people act like that's all it was, when it's like there was actually a very targeted, intentional attack that he was doing to Santos, because Santos was picking up on the fact that he was stealing medication. So please stop this. Anyways, I made a bunch of TikToks about this. My TikTok is linked down below. Okay, there's also a moment where they say something in Latin, amor fati, and then I'm Googling this because I meant to do this earlier and I don't know, but like Santos says amor fati, love of one's fate. Okay, and then I think Robbie says amor fati, and then Santos replies memento mori. Remember, you must die. Damn, that's hard. And then Robbie says same difference. Or, anyways, so there's something there. There's something there. Love or fate or something, and then it's like actually you're gonna die. Okay. Anyways, there's something to that. Do I know what it is? Not really. The son who drove fast and like his dad needed dialysis, they stabilized him. He's doing okay. And we get more information about the hospital closing. It was due to Medicare spending cuts because the son drove really, really fast, and they're talking about that. And it's a very nice moment where the son really is concerned about his dad, and we find out, this very sad reality that hospitals are shutting down. And then the dad is like, yeah, folks from our area are gonna have to drive really long distances to get like care. And it is really, really, and like the thing is, I have to say, I went to college in rural Ohio, and I experienced, obviously to a smaller degree, because I did have a hospital like 15 minutes from me. That was the emergency room I was referring to earlier. That I have, same hospital. I was in the ICU. Anyways, but it was hard getting treatment that I needed. Not even on an emergency level, just like mental health treatment. There weren't many therapists in my area, and most of the ones who were like not in Columbus, who were in the rural areas, were like religious or conservative. And so I had to drive an hour to Columbus. I appreciated them mentioning this. This is something that upsets me. I experienced it to a lesser degree, and I had a lot of privileges because I was on a college campus. We did have a hospital nearby. There were just a lot of like long-term treatments, like intense treatments, even that I needed, that were impacted because of this. So, anyways, Javadi asks Whitaker if he's still thinking about going into rural emergency medicine when he's done here. He says not thinking, doing, that's his plan. And then Javadi's like, hopefully there are hospitals left for you to do that. Fingers crossed. Mateo is the first in from the night shift. I didn't think he was going to be in this because I know he was in, I think the show's called Off Campus. I mean, that hasn't premiered yet. I'm excited to watch that because one of the actresses in it I really like. I didn't read the books. I don't really care about hockey romances. I liked Heated Rivalry, but mostly because I was gay. I'll watch anything if it's gay. So, like, this off-campus show, I wouldn't have tuned into it just because of the hockey thing. The actress, I really like Mika. She was in, what is the name? She was in some movie on Hulu that I can't remember. She was actually in the last season of The Pitt. She was like just, one of the patients. But I really like her. Like I'm a big fan of hers. And so I was excited to watch her in this off-campus show. So I was looking at the cast and I found out that the actor who plays Mateo is on it. So I kind of thought he wasn't going to be in this season. But he is. Excited to see him on that show. Don't know anything about that story except the fact that like it's about a college hockey team. Not about the hockey team. The hockey's like secondary to the plot. It's a romance. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But it was great to see him there. He has a nice little flirty conversation with Javadi, and I ship it. That's cute. That's cute. I'm a fan. He calls her Dr. J. That's cute. They're cute. I like them. The angry golfer's test results come back, and he was on coke in addition to the alcohol. And when McKay tells him this, he's like, okay, yeah, I did some coke in addition to the alcohol. So what? And she's like, well, when they mix, it can like create a very intense reaction where you can be agitated, you can be violent, you can be like, and I think it can also lead to death. I don't know. I've never done coke. Anyways, that can explain his agitated behavior. More on that man later. Very brief moment. The Pitt Museum, Ford Pitt Museum guys are here. Langdon likes them. Good for Langdon. I wrote that in my notes. I don't have anything to say. I don't know why I added it to my notes, but you know what? I'm covering all my bases here. Duke asks Robbie why he's jonesing to leave. And throughout the episode, there are a lot of shots of like Robbie very clearly like reacting to the noise. Like it's done so well where like you can tell he's like triggered, his like he's unwell. He's unwell, and the way it's shot and the way that Noah Wiley, I think is, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. I know how you spell it, but I don't know how you pronounce it. So I'm sorry if it's just Wild, but I think it's Wiley. Anyways, he does such a great job portraying Robbie, especially in these moments when he's like clearly unwell. So good, so good. I'm really feeling Robbie's struggle. Dante, the patient who they stapled his head, he begins having complications. Robbie and Santos treat him, and like they stabilize him. Garcia comes down and compliments them both. Okay, she was nice to Trinity one moment. I still don't really like you, Garcia, but you know, that was nice of you, I guess. The thing for me about Garcia is it's not even things she really does. I genuinely, and this is where I can admit my bias, and I wish more people just did this about Santos instead of being like, she's an evil person, she's all of these things. Garcia, her personality, her vibe, I don't vibe with it. Like the jokes she makes, the banter she has with her coworkers, I don't like it. And I don't feel like I know enough about her. Like Santos is a character who like she has moments like that where like the way she communicates frustrates me, but there's like these moments of softness and vulnerability, and like there's a depth to her character. Maybe I'm just not seeing it with Garcia, but I feel like Garcia just pops in every once in a while, is a little annoying in my opinion, and then she leaves. It's like, what have we seen? I don't know. Wish her the best, but I don't really like her. That's my honest truth with Garcia. I don't really like her. Does that mean she's bad? No. Does that mean she's evil? No. I have no real judgments of her except the fact that I just don't like her. Mel and Mohan present to Robbie about the elderly couple and explain that the meds were interacting. So none of them are like critical medications. So they're going to like stop some of them and check in with the primary care. And Robbie's like, that's great. Sometimes all you really need to do is give a patient some agency. And it seems nice. Okay, they walk away and then he calls Samira back. And you think, wow, a moment of kindness, a nice moment. He's like, I know you were looking for an elective. Geriatrics would be good for you. And then he says, you have a predisposition to the pace. It's like, this really angered me more than the last like episode or 2 episodes ago when Robbie yelled at Samira. Because I'm like, okay, the panic attack moment was really, really mean. And then when he was very harsh on her about like Ogilvy's mistake and her not double checking, I'm like, okay, those moments I can be like, I can maybe I like, this was a moment of like pure calm where it seems like he's trying to give her a compliment and he still has to put her down. That angered me more than anything else Robbie has done, because I'm like, the reaction to the panic attack was like really upsetting, but that was clearly like an emotional reaction. And and then when he was harsh on her about, again, Ogilvy's mistake, I'm like, okay, that was like a patient was in danger. It escalated. I understand his frustration. This was like genuinely just a moment of being cruel for what? It seems nice. He's complimenting her. He's being kind. It's like, oh my God, yay. He's nice to her. But he still has to throw in a jab. Like, this pissed me off more than anything Robbie's done. Maybe that's just me. It's just like there's something about like harshness in the heat of an emotion that, as much as it's upsetting, I'm like, okay, you were dysregulated. In this moment, Mohan did nothing wrong. You're not upset with her because she did something wrong. You just still have to put her down even when she's doing something right. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Rabinovich? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? It's like one thing to be very harsh and like mean and unempathetic when you're mad at somebody because they did something wrong. It's another thing to be that cruel and like mean when they did something right. It's like in those moments, I'm like, okay, maybe you're upset that they made a mistake. It's still not right the way he handled it, but it's like this moment genuinely, it seemed like it was a compliment and you still had to put her down. It's like unbelievably upsetting to me. I'm sorry. I need to calm down, but it really, really upset me. Like this upset me more than anything. Again, it's not okay, but in the show, in these moments when something goes wrong, the anger and the like vitriol that Robbie has, I'm like, okay, it's not good, but I understand that you're upset that something went wrong. You're still going to be such an asshole when she did something right. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. What was necessary about the comment of the pace? If anything, her pace helped her in this case. I really need to calm down, but it really baffled me. It baffled me. What is wrong with you? Dana and Robbie have a conversation in the ambulance bay, which is what I was referring to earlier about like their big conversation. It's intense. She's like, this place survived without Adamson. It survived without me. It'll survive without you. This place is bigger than one person. It clearly impacted him, but he didn't hear it because Robbie throughout the whole shift has very much, honestly, even just from a purely selfish, don't take it so personally Robbie perspective, it's like he is acting as if everything is on him. He has to leave. Like, not everything is on you. Not everything is on you. That's a lot of pressure to hold on one person, even just for himself. But there's like a level of like, I don't know. It was so good. It'd been building and building and building, and then it exploded. I think we're going to get more in the next episode as well, but like just very, very well done, this conversation with Dana and Robbie. Like really, really well done. 10 out of 10. Mohan and Mel, wrap up their treatment of the elderly couple, and he says, I wrote this down verbatim because I really, really liked it. He says, the husband, who's played by somebody who was a captain. I don't remember his name. He was on SVU, but I don't remember the character's name. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to that man. But he says, every old person knows what it is to be young, but no young person can know what it is to be old. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. He thanks them for listening. And I just love Mohan. I love Mohan. Michael Rabinovich, you will pay for your crimes. Santos is at a supply cart and she eyes a scalpel and then she pockets the scalpel. And this is why I really can't hold an anger towards Santos for like the what if he relapsed comment, because Santos is literally about to relapse. I can't judge her for that. And this moment, Whitaker comes up and they have a conversation, and I wrote this down verbatim as well because it impacted me that deeply. She says, it was literally my first day of being a doctor, and Langdon gaslit me and made me question my skills over and over. And it's taken me a long time to feel like I belong here. And now he's back. And I don't even care that he was an addict. I care that he was an asshole. That he was a fucking asshole, whatever. Sorry. And it's like no one here even remembers any of this. And everyone here talks about community and family, and all while they throw you under the bus. And Robbie is the only attending who actually sees through the bullshit. But now he's leaving for some grand ego death spirit quest. And RoboDoc over there shoots me in the proverbial dick. I genuinely didn't love Santos season 1. I didn't hate her, but I have really, really grown to love Santos this season. And I understand that like this is my bias and I'm self-inserting or whatever the fuck, I don't know. But I do just really relate to this, and I really understand that feeling of questioning your place. And I also really understand struggling with self-harm. And this is all just hitting really close to home. Like her being like, he made me question my skills, and I had to like really, it took me a while to feel like I belong here. I can't imagine like that feeling and then the person who made you doubt that like is back all of a sudden. And like I really feel for Santos. And I just don't understand how anybody hears this conversation, hears her perspective of the events, and doesn't have empathy for her and doesn't understand how emotionally detrimental it was for Langdon to treat her the way he did in that shift, and how frustrating it would be that somebody who treated her that way then knows the reality of the events. I really can't judge Santos. I really can't. Whitaker is like, Garcia is here, and Santos is like, she just likes getting laid. She doesn't actually like me. She's also hurt, Santos is, that Whitaker is moving in with Robbie, and there's like a fun little banter now where he's like, you actually like living with me. He's like, just say that you like being my roommate and I won't leave. And she like can't admit that to him. I really like Santos. I really like Santos. She's won me over. She's won me over. I also just really don't understand how people say Santos hasn't changed at all. It's like maybe the things that you just don't like about her personality that make you dislike her haven't changed, and that's fine. But to act as if Santos as a character hasn't grown tremendously since season 1, it feels so disingenuous to me. Anyways, McKay and the angry golfer have a conversation, which again is one of those moments that I feel like really indicates to me that if she had the full picture of the relation of the situation with Langdon, her opinion would be different, because he's like, when can I get out of here? And she's like, you're not going anywhere. You assaulted a nurse. And he's like, you said it was that whole reaction from the drugs mixing. And she's like, if you kill somebody and you're drunk, you still killed somebody. So this idea that some people have that like McKay, like at the end of the day, I do think the fact that Langdon stole drugs is a huge factor. It's a huge piece to the puzzle that I do think would change people's view of the bigger picture. So this moment to me made it clear that just as Al Hashimi had a different view of Langdon, I think McKay would as well. Also, fuck that golfer. Al Hashimi tells Robbie that the computers will be coming back slowly but surely. They're starting the process of rebooting the computers. And then she basically tells him he can go, like that they've got it all handled. He's not ready to go yet. Duke is going up to CT finally, and Robbie's like, I am staying until you're cleared, and then I'll go. McKay and Robbie then have a conversation where she's like, well, I guess this is it. And she says, I didn't write this down verbatim and I should have, but she was like, in a past life, I knew a lot of people who tried to get as close to the line as if it was a challenge they were called to meet, or something poetic along those lines. And she's like, the problem is they all eventually found the line. And he's like, I don't. She's like, I'm picking up a weird vibe from you today. Everybody's like, Robbie, we're about to put you in that room with the mother. Okay. 302, danger to self. Like, Joy leaves and Langdon's like, you're leaving? And she's like, yeah, like I'm, she's like 62%, I believe, of ER physicians struggle with burnout. And he's like, I'm well aware. And she's like, well, maybe you guys should take it from me. Okay. And she leaves. And then as she's leaving, the night shift doctor comes in, not Abbott, the other one, Chen, I believe is his name. And she's like, good luck in there. Sorry about the mess. I'm going to check his name. I don't want to butcher his name. Shen. Sorry. Dr. Shen, I believe. Anyways, my apologies. And then the episode ends with Orlando, the patient from a few episodes ago, coming back. He has a head trauma. He fell from the warehouse catwalk where he works, and he's in significantly worse condition now. And episode 13 is about to be a shit show for Samira and for Orlando. And I'm going to be so angry the entire episode about the state of the healthcare system and insurance and everything, because it is so fucked up that people like Orlando, because this is reality. This is real. That people like Orlando work but aren't insured, they're in tons of medical debt, so they can't prioritize. Like it's just sick and twisted. It's sick and twisted that people can't prioritize being like can't live because they're going to be in crazy amounts of medical debt. Like it's fucked up. And it should not be the state of the world. It should not be the state of this country where we have trillionaires and billionaires that people are dying, going into tons and tons of medical debt. It's sick and twisted. It's sick and twisted. I'm sorry. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Follow me wherever you listen to podcasts, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And you will hear from me next week.